go. And now get my screen share. Bada bing, bada boom. Just share this bad boy. I want to make sure y'all can see. Should look like a YouTube video.
Yep.
Perfect. Let's see if we can hear this.
The team that's struggling.
Can you
or
hear it?
anybody new that we bring in, that like it kind of just like dawned on me, like there's always going to be evolution in the way that we run our business. Like things have to evolve, things have to change, and I feel like we're in a season where some things need some tweaking and some people need some breakthroughs. Am I right or am I right? So yeah, and I don't want you guys to feel like that. So this is what we're going to talk about. An IPA is an income producing activity, right? That's what IPA stands for. So the IPAs that you're doing, if they're not producing income, it's not really an IPA, right? Like, let's think about this. We call them IPAs, but what is actually producing income in your business? And that's the shift I had to have when I had him. And I no longer have all the time I used to have to show up and work my business. I had to get very nitty gritty with, this is the time I have right now. What action do I need to take in my business that is going to produce the most for me, that's going to matter, that is going to reflect on my paycheck, whether that's next Tuesday or in 3 months from now? You know what I mean? Like, what is actually income producing for me? And I think it's okay to evolve. I think it's okay to shift and be really honest with what's working for you and what's not. So that was where like my brain started turning. And I'm like, okay, if I'm looking at me and how my schedule's changed, and I'm looking at anybody that's on the team that's struggling, but also new people that I'm bringing in, like what is the definition of what's going to be income producing for them? What is actually going to reflect in their back office, reflect on their paycheck, and allow them to show up in their business in a space that feels really, really good? And I kind of touched on this last week also when I talked about Amanda Francis and how she had said on her story, like, no, I don't consume any content. I don't watch other people's stories. I don't really read books. Like, I was kind of talking about that because I've been working really hard on production over consumption, and that's going to have to do with this too. But when you think about the people that are making a lot of money, let's say maybe it's like your favorite coach you follow on Instagram or whoever it may be, or maybe somebody famous, like, do you think that they are all sitting there like interacting in 10-minute intervals with people? No. When they show up and they produce content and they're on social media, that's what they're there to do. They are there to show themselves, to show what they have to offer, to connect with their audience, and people are coming to them. So think about the mindset behind that, right? Like, they're not sitting there thinking, okay, I have to go add 20 people right now and I have to interact with this amount of people. They're showing up in their space and saying, what do I have of value to share with other people? That's what they're doing. And that's kind of just how my wheels started turning. And I do believe, like, interacting, growing your network, those things are important, but that's not the end all be all of your business. And if you're stuck behind those things, and that's where the majority of your time is being spent, but your inbox is empty, we have to switch something, right? Like, there's a missing piece here. And I want you to have that realization of, am I stuck behind that list right now? Like, is all my stress being carried from that when I show up and work my business? Is that what I'm thinking about? Like, if you are relating an IPA list as your whole business, we have to shift something, because you are your business. The way you show up, the content you produce, the person that you are, the passion you share, the products, that is the meat and potatoes of your business.
Okay, I'm gonna pause real quick. Because I think that like really spoke to me. I was like, holy crap, how many times do I catch myself on my checklist that I do? Like, followers, cool, got it. Interacted with like, 5 people's stories, got it. And I'm like checking all these boxes and I'm doing all these things that maybe it's like, okay, so what if I took the time that I'm spending, that I end up actually scrolling half the time and getting distracted? What if I were to place that energy, not completely forego it, but take maybe some of that time that I'm putting towards some of these other things and really put it towards something that's going to, like, my content, and like really making sure that I'm putting stuff out there that I don't just think is funny, because I have a problem with that. Sometimes I was like, oh, that's so funny, I'm just gonna post it. And actually making sure I'm creating value for my ideal client. That's a piece that really hit me. And then Going to 11:50. Don't mind me. Of course, I took notes. All right, and then honestly, from here out, I'm just gonna kind of let it ride a little bit if you guys are cool with that.
What is important to me and what is going to get people in my inbox, because my inbox was stale and dry. And like, I just felt like I was showing up and posting something on my story, but there wasn't intention behind it. I wasn't adding value. Like, I was just going through the motions of like making sure I got all the things done, but that connection was missing. So what I wrote here is what is actually going to get people in my inbox connecting with me, and what is going to also get people on Thrive. So it's the personal and the business side of things. Plus, I want you to think about this. If someone is brand new, how do I help them to be consistent and connect with their audience right off the bat? That isn't me overwhelming them with a like a laundry list of IPAs that they have to do every day when they aren't even yet confident to post on their story. I believe helping them step into who they are and what they will share comes first. I want to help you to know how to show up in the online space and connect with people as who you are. So that's where my mindset was, because if you feel bogged down by this list of IPAs and you're not connecting to your audience, is the same thing then not happening when you're bringing somebody new on? What do you think is going to be more beneficial to somebody that you bring on, or even to yourself, if you really nail down how to show up to connect with people and like the way you want to show up, what you want to share, and allowing somebody else to feel confident. Now, like say it's somebody brand new and they're like, well, I'm not even active on my stories, right? And then you're giving them this 10 listing of IPAs and they're like, I don't even know what this means, and I don't have time for this, I don't know how to do any of this. Like, I want to get the content first and then those behind the scene things second, if that makes sense. So the majority of the effort has to be with the content you're producing and what you are sharing, and connection is the most important. So I'm going to walk through how I did this, and then I'm going to walk through the conversation that I had with her, with how I helped her to kind of do that also, because I think that this is where the missing piece is for a lot of people. I think that some of you are really bogged down with the really long to-do list that you have to do, and you're showing up and doing all the things, but there's not people in your inbox and it's not actually producing the income. And I think that those things can produce the income if the connection comes first. But if you're missing that connection and you don't really know how you're showing up in the space at all, and you don't have anybody replying to you, and you don't feel those relationships flourishing, that, like I said, like that's the meat and potatoes, like that's the heart of the relationship. And if that's not there, we have to work on that first. So we're going to talk about the way you show up. And I want to say too, I'm going to kind of tie this in and redo the What Are Your 5 Things video in the team page, because that video is so old, but I'm going to redo that with this mindset behind it, and some of like the newbie trainings and stuff like that. But I'm going to walk you through what I did. So the most important thing that I had to do is I had to change my mindset and rediscover what was important to me when showing up. Because if I was struggling to complete that list, and that was where my focus was, but I wasn't even producing content that felt really good, and I wasn't having new people talk to me, and like there wasn't the people element to it, everything I'm doing is in vain. Like there's no point to it then.
I feel like that's where our niche training comes in, to where we've kind of found that spot, that sweet spot of like, okay, like I know what I'm about to be about.
So
it's kind of
one of
the same area right
things
there.
that I had to do personally is I had to stop being, I know this isn't for you, like I had to stop being afraid to be myself. And this is just like my personality trait. I don't ever want to offend anybody. I don't ever want to ruffle anybody's feathers. I like tiptoe around everything. I'm a people pleaser, like to the core of everything in my body. Okay, working on it. But I feel like on my social media, I was playing it too safe with who I was. And that wasn't allowing me to connect with other people, because people had no idea who I was or what I stood for or what I believed in or what I was passionate about, because I was too afraid to talk about it, because I didn't want to offend somebody. I'm not saying that like I'm showing up and being like ultra controversial all the time. I'm not. I'm just no longer afraid to talk about things that matter to me. And I honestly think a lot of it has to do with becoming a mom. You give like the I don't give a shit anymore. I don't know if anybody else had that when you have like became a mom, like this confidence just gets in you and you're like, oh, I'm not the same. And I'm not afraid to talk about things. And I think just being a mom in general has made me like extremely passionate about a lot of things. But you can't be afraid to be yourself. And I feel like, especially the past couple of years, this has been like really hard to navigate because there's been like a lot of stuff going on, like political, like it's just, we're in messy territory. And I feel like, especially running a business, you're like, I don't know what I can talk about, what I can't talk about. And that's completely up to your discernment and your discretion. But you can't be afraid to be yourself. And I realize that, where I'm like, if I'm just being this surface level, like, I don't want to offend anybody, I don't want to say the wrong thing, I don't want, somebody to disagree with me, like, how am I going to find my people? Like, how are people going to know who I am? How are they going to know what I'm about? So I really had to stop doing that. And I had to be loud and proud about who I was and what I believed in. And that directly related to the things that I started to share. And I saw somebody say it up here, like one of the first things I started talking about was the fact that we co-sleep. And that's like very controversial nowadays. Like, if you don't co-sleep, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. But like, that's a choice I made for my family. And in the beginning, when I had him, I was so afraid to like say that I co-slept. Like, I would take a cute boomerang and I'm like, oh no, he's on the bed. Like, somebody's gonna say something to me, they're gonna freak out at me. Like, I was tiptoeing around everything. And
this is basically like literally
and I just felt like I had to be me, and I had to be comfortable being me, and I had to be comfortable showing up and talking about the things that I believed in. Because if you're not talking about what you're passionate about or what you believe in, that's like you're missing the core of who you are and the value that you can add online. So that was the first thing that I had to do, is I had to stop being afraid to be myself. And I don't know what that means to you. It might be something you believe in, something you're passionate about, a part of your life that you don't share online because you're nervous to. Like, just don't be afraid to be yourself. And like I said, your discernment and your discretion of what you want to share and what you don't. I keep a lot of stuff private, but some things I'm very passionate about and I want to talk about. So I stopped being afraid to do that. And that immediately connected me with my audience, like immediately, because people knew who I was. Like, people realize, like, okay, hey, she believes in things, she's passionate about things, she cares about things. It's not so just like easy peasy, don't want to ruffle any feathers. He's moving. So that was one of the first things, is that I had to do that, and I had to stop being afraid to be who I was, and that immediately connected me to my audience. And the second thing I did is that I niched down on the things that I wanted to share on my page, also the things that I didn't want to share. And I got very intentional with the way that I was showing up on my stories. And I really do believe that like 95% of my business is from my stories. I do consistently post on my feed, but I know that like the conversations and the relationships and most of my moments come from my story. So that's really where I pour a good majority of my effort. So I really got specific about what I wanted to share. And this is also what I walked through with Kendra that I'm going to talk about. So for instance, for me, things that I share on my page, I talk about motherhood, right? But I don't just say like I'm a mom. I talk about the things that I'm specifically passionate about. And these are the things that you will see in my story every single day. So think about this in like the what are your 5 things method, right? That we're kind of shifting it to this when I niche down. So I share motherhood and I share my child, but I talk about the things that I'm passionate about. So I talk about sleeping, I advocate for breastfeeding and talk about that on my page. I talk about my journey through that. I talk about things like what we do during our wake windows and the activities I do with him. Like, I'm passionate about that part of being a work from home mom. And I share those things. I share what we do throughout the day because I want to help other moms with that. So it's not just, oh, I'm a mom. Let me like give an example like this. And this is what I was talking to her about. If I take a video on my story and it's like of Banks, I don't know, on his mat doing tummy time or something, I can do a video of that. Or I can do the video and explain and say, like, this is the second wake window. This is what we do during this. Or like, this is what helped. Like today I said that the Christmas tree is helping us with tummy time because he freaking hates his tummy time. But when I put him in front of the Christmas tree, he keeps his neck up and he's really engaged. So I said, if your baby hates tummy time, put them in front of the Christmas tree or put them in front of lights or something to engage them. So you see how it's not just sharing my day of like, oh, there's my baby on the floor. I'm sharing my day, but I'm adding value for what I'm passionate about. Does that make sense? Yes, giving tips and tricks about that specific thing. So that's how I share my day, just casually with walking through my day with what I'm doing, but I add value so that there's meaning with it. So that like,
which
I'm
is those
connected.
authority,
I have moms in my inbox
authority
asking
posts right
about
there.
windows. Like I just was voice messaging somebody before I hopped on here And she's like, my baby's 4 months old and he hates tummy time. Like, what can I do? And so I voice messaged her back and I gave her tips. Like, it just gets my conversations going because I'm trying to add value in whatever I believe that I can, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I do that. And then like, I had somebody else message me and ask a question about nursing. So like I said on my story, like, don't be afraid to ask me questions. Like, I'm not a lactation consultant, I'm not a medical professional, but like, if you want to know something about my journey, ask me. So I open up the conversations about the things that are a part of my day-to-day life. Being with my son is part of that. Nursing is part of that. Co-sleeping is part of that. Like, everything is what I do daily, but I'm adding that value. So that's one thing I share. I talk a lot about my decor in my house. I'm really passionate about Christmas. You guys know this, like, that's a big part of my in my inbox. So when I was talking to Kendra,
I appreciate that she is sharing what she shares on social, but it's like, okay.
Stories. And she went through and she's like, well, I'm home with the boys and we're sharing that and this and that, and we homeschool. And so I broke that down for her and I'm like, okay, so if we're sharing those things, let me find this message. So I said, do you talk about homeschooling? Because I knew that she homeschooled. And she said she talked about it because she shows like their day. And obviously that's a part of it. And I said, what if you pick things to focus on within that niche? I said, what if you share resources for homeschoolers? What if you explain what activity you're doing that day during homeschooling? Why don't you talk about your journey to homeschooling? Like, what got you homeschooling? Why do you want to? Why are you passionate for it? Like, be an advocate for it. Talk about when you were first starting it, like what resources you found. So it's not just showing it, it's adding that value with it. And that's what I went through. For me, instead of showing a video of bike riding, I added what we're doing lessons at the same time with spelling, math, colors, etc. Yeah, so adding that homeschooling with it. So it's still sharing your day. It's the majority of my enrollments is coming from my stories. Doesn't it better serve me to make sure my effort is going into my stories, that I'm intentional with what I'm putting on there? When it takes the same amount of time to snap a picture anyways, I can add a caption just as quick that adds more value. Does that make sense? So that was my mindset behind it. I want to put intention where I know my enrollments are coming from. And the same thing developed when it came to how I was sharing the product. Is this making sense? I hope it is. I'm going to put all these notes also onto when I post the recording, because I have a whole laundry list. So that was really, really important. And then that's what I walked her through. And I said, like, you're already sharing these things, just be more specific with the value that you're adding for that. And with that comes more work-life separation for me, because yes, I consistently talk about those things, but I have a whole life of other things that I don't have to put on my story. And I feel more free. And I feel like there's more of a divide. Like, for me, I've never really, like, yes, I post Travis on my stories and stuff, but like, I don't put my marriage out there. Like, that's very, very sacred to me. And I keep our relationship mostly off of waking up. So for me, like, I don't feel the pressure to be like, oh my gosh, I have to share every moment and everything we do, and I have to be on my stories all day long. No, I knew I already added value with the things that I want to show up and share. And the other things, I get that work-life separation where I don't feel like I have to share absolutely everything. And that's been really key for me, and like getting off my phone and stuff. I need to call my husband so we can go off the baby. That's been important to me. So he's upstairs. So that's what I did with the content. And when I was setting the limits for like my screen time and lessening it, that is how I feel like I'm getting more bang. Right up. Hi, can you go rock him?
I love that you can actually hear him in the. It's like,
I talk more, I will talk as fast as I can.
That's so funny.
Love you, bye.
Been there.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, so I don't really like talk. He said, how long, right? Like, what are you doing? You're playing video games. You can go. And you probably won't be able to get him back to sleep, but I'm gonna try to wrap this up as much as I can. I'm gonna go into the business stuff. So that's how I got ultra specific. And for me, that was the mindset shift, because I felt like I was being really harsh with myself with not completing like my list of IPs or these things. But then when I did them, I wasn't seeing that reflecting in my enrollments. Like I wasn't seeing that reflect on my paycheck. I didn't feel like I was accomplishing anything. And I needed to shift my focus to, hey, if I have this time to show up, what can I give in this moment that is going to be the best for what I'm trying to do here, right? And that's connect with people in general and connect with people about Thrive. And that's what I had to work on. So that's how I did it about the personal stuff that I share. Now, when it comes to the products and business, I feel like when I became a mom, I realized how much time I spent making opportunity stories, and then I'm like really slow at making them, like really slow. I knew I was slow, but at this point I'm like, I don't even know, like, did I spend hours? Like, how did I get that done? So a really big thing for me was trying to figure out how can I add the most value without having to sit and do that. And I say this all the time, I love a good Canva story. I love being creative. Like that's an outlet for me. Like I would do that even if it didn't have anything to do with my paycheck, but I don't always have the time for it. So what I shifted to, especially with the products, that's what I'm going to focus on. And we have been talking a lot about like product passion and like the shift in that and the shift in customers. And I implemented everything like Lindsay was talking to us about. And I have focused so much on just getting the product in people's hands and sharing testimonies. For me right now, sharing testimonies is what is helping me to get enrollments. I could spend an hour making a new Canva about the 3 steps, but that's not going to work for me right now. Right now, sharing testimonies, I'm showing me taking the products every day. I'm getting samples out the door. I'm getting testimonies from those sample customers. I'm posting them on my stories. If anybody says anything to me about the products, I screenshot it and it's on my story. And I do it every single day. And I'm putting testimonies up every single day. And I can't tell you the last time I did a product story, but I have the highest customer enrollments that I've had in forever. And so that was kind of my mindset shift with that. And I just had this aha moment because I was like, I'm sitting here and I'm stressed about like how many views I have on a reel, or the fact that like 5 people unfollowed me yesterday, but I followed 20, but like nobody's following me back. And I didn't get to finish this, when like, no, I need to be concerned about like, did I get a new testimony in my testimony folder on my iPhone in my albums today? Like, is that growing? Because that's what matters. That's the meat and potatoes of our business. I don't care how many followers there are. I don't care how many likes or views. I care that I'm getting Thrive in people's hands. That's what's producing enrollments for me. And that was the shift that I had to have, because I was focusing on all these like social media things and like, and this is what's, hot right now. And this is what I need to do. And I have to get this up, and then I would get discouraged if like something didn't do well or it tanked. Like I was just focusing on all the wrong things. And if I didn't get something done, and I'm like, my job as a promoter is literally to get the product in people's hands. That is what my job is. So how am I going to do that in the time that I have? I'm going to get on my stories. I'm going to talk about the products. I'm going to talk about them. I talked about the fact that my hair is falling out. My baby's making my hair fall out. Okay. I have really bad postpartum hair loss. It is terrifying and petrifying and it's falling out everywhere. So I'm taking our collagen. And guess what? I have new growth up here. I have these little baby hairs. It looks like I have a man head up here because it's like all little baby hairs, but I'm talking about it. I'm talking about that I'm taking my thirst because it's important for me to stay hydrated. I'm talking about my 3 steps, and I'm constantly talking about the samples, constantly, because people need to get these products. And then, like I said, I'm getting the testimonies and I'm putting those on my story. So my focus can't be on views. It can't be on likes. It can't be on, the perfect hashtags. My focus is to get myself out there and get these products out there. And that is why my inbox is on fire right now. And that is why my enrollments are higher than they have been, because I went through a really hard season when he was in the NICU and came home. And I remember for the first time in like years, I had no enrollments in a month. And I was like, gosh, like I have to get back to this, but it's not even getting back to it. It's like finding the new, what is this? Like, how do I do this now? How do I make this work? And that's what I want you to see is I'm not telling you to reinvent your wheel. If things are working for you, I want them to work for you and I want them to do them. But if you feel like you're stressing over a certain part of the business and that isn't actually income producing for you, where can our focus be instead? Where can the passion come from instead? How do you get your audience connected with you? And that's the most important thing, is getting your audience connected with you and getting your audience connected with the products. That's your secret sauce right there.
Okay. So Honestly, the biggest things that I took away from what she was saying, because like a lot of it did get fluffed around with like what specifically she was posting about, which is helpful for people who maybe haven't gone through some of the niche training and don't know the different, you know, types of posting that you can do that can be specific to your niche or anything like that. But I feel like we almost have a leg up when it comes to that. It's more of now, like, cut the crap and like actually focus on what's going to bring, you know, honestly, it's like, well, what was it? My old boss used to tell me, results over effort. She's like, I'm not wanting you to do 10,000 things. I want you to do 3 things that are literally going to make your job, like, to get the job done. And that's honestly, like, it was weird that Brooke shared this training, because I was like, you know, a part of me, like, I can be like doing the following, I can be doing all my IPA stuff. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, I had, let me go ahead and just go back to the screen here. I had created this Get Up and Grow IPA tracker, and I'll be honest with you, like, I still do like a lot of the stuff that's on here. I'm very much a list person, but it comes down to like every day, I'll tell you this, like, my stuff is like either all over the place, or I'll be super steady and get like knock out almost all of them each time. I'm not sure how you guys are in the middle of my 2 screens. There we go. And then it's like I don't have any traction from it, and I understand fully that we want to make sure that we're not like just trying something for 5 seconds and then, you know, oh, that didn't work, let's move on. But I do genuinely think that reassessing, especially if you've got the full-time job, you've got kids, you've got a new puppy, you know, like, there's a lot of things that happen in our life that I even told myself this once I stopped Beachbody. I was like, I'm not going to be glued to my phone. Like, I refuse to be glued. If I'm like spending time on it for me, or like doing something for the family, or, you know, whatever, that's one thing. But I was like, I really, really don't want to trade my, like, my family time for my phone time. Granted, this could make like such a huge difference in my family's life, but at the stage we're at right now, I'm not willing to miss certain parts of how our family is going, especially with my husband's sobriety, and like making sure that like we are being intentional with each other. But that also means that when I'm doing work, I'm being intentional with that. So intentional content was a huge thing I took from that. Like, I've even posted a couple things today that maybe weren't even like, definitely not even within my niche or anything. It was just, I thought it was kind of funny. And I tried something out. I stopped using hashtags, and I swear to you, I've got like 20 views or something on it. And I'm like, okay. But like she said, I'm not like taking that at face value, you know. I'm just going to get back onto using hashtags that are within my niche so that the right people can see it, and make sure that my content is of value to them. It's something that they would be interested in. And then sharing testimonies. I'll be honest with you, I have been really bad about that. I don't know about you guys, but like, I have so many in my phone saved up just from what has been shared in the social chat, or I guess I don't need to share this anymore. What's in the social chat, or just like, you know, talking to any of my past clients or current clients. And it's one of those where I'm like, you know what is the first thing that I do? Literally the first thing I do anytime I go to buy a product or do anything, I go to look at the reviews. I look at how much it is, and I look at the reviews, because I want to make sure that that dollar sign is worth what I'm going to be paying, like that it equates what I'll be receiving. And that really kind of struck me. I was like, you know what? Social proof is a real thing that we can really like help to give ourselves validity, that proof of expertise, that authority type of posting of content, like right there, that would fall under that as well. Because yeah, like I said, 100%. I don't care if I'm on Amazon, I don't care if I'm on Google, if I'm wherever I'm finding anything for online shopping, or even for something I'm going to the store for, I'm looking at the reviews, because I will not spend my hard-earned money on something that is trash. Like that's going to break in 5 seconds, or not going to work, or be ineffective. And I think that that's something I need to maybe realize, that other people feel that way too. And we provide products and a service, in a business opportunity. And if they're not seeing like the proof being in the pudding, if maybe I'm posting about it, talking about it a little bit here and there, but I'm not showing like the fruits of the of what that could potentially do for them, then I'm literally just talking for people to hear me and not respond. Something that she had said a little earlier on, I didn't show you guys, it was definitely more of the like, what is the point of doing all this connecting? She's like, I just want to ask you guys, what's the point of doing, like, of course we want to connect with people, so I'm not saying that we shouldn't be connecting with people. This is network marketing. I get, like, we talk to people. She's like, but are you finding that you're the only person who's responding? Like, are you finding that like literally you're like, oh my gosh, like I have a dog like that too, or oh my gosh, like on their stories, and like all they're doing is like either responding to you and you're having to constantly carry the conversation, almost like they don't have anything in common with you. She's like, so this is where creating that content, creating more content that is for that person, it can keep that conversation going. And maybe even they're asking you more questions instead of you asking them questions, because they see you as more of an expert, which I feel like, Alex, you do a really good job in general with meal prepping. I swear to God, I watch your shit and I'm like, oh my God.
Thanks.
Like, I don't know how to do that. I learn stuff all the time. But we have 2 minutes left. Was there anything that like spectacular other than being able to smell, taste, happening? Nothing else
Yeah.
crazy?
What?
Anything else crazy going on?
Not really.
No?
Just trying to get back to like my daily routine, and I did get a New Hampshire license finally.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Been what, like 5
So,
or how long has it been?
yeah, like
Like 5 months, 4
since
months?
August. Yeah.
That's
It's
great. Yeah, it's
I
fine.
got one, so
Yay.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was helpful. I'm gonna be more, I mean, I'm trying to be more intentional anyways, but I think like I do need to post more like reviews and stuff and
Yeah,
do that.
I know. Yeah, I'm not. It's one of those where like I create subfolders on my phone for that purpose. Like I literally have one that is reviews and like, products,
Yeah.
product information and reviews. And I put everything into that folder and then like don't do anything with it. I'm like, those are just for me apparently.
Yeah, right. I know. I need to do that. I feel like people don't post them as much in that chat anymore.
Yeah, I know, but I know they're coming in because I'll see them on other people's stories. So I'm like,
Yeah.
am I really gonna screenshot your shit right now? Yes, I'm doing that. But I don't do anything with it, so it's fine. No, I totally want to do that. It's gonna cut us off here, but
Yeah.
I like seeing your face, and I'm glad Amber could hop on too.
Yeah.
I'm going to end this. I have to wait for the recording to come up, and then if anyone wants to see it, honestly, or I could just share the link